Drop it!
That's not my wife, man. I just want to listen, man.
Hey!
Well, people are really fired up over this video, and honestly, they have every right to be over the potential chainsaw massacre going into the senior care facility. Let's talk about it. This is a Shots Fired podcast. I'm Kyle Schoberg, and to my right is Mark Redlich.
This body cam video comes out of St. Charles, Illinois on December 1st, 2024, when officers were dispatched to a senior care facility with a man welding a chainsaw. We are going to give you our perspective from a law enforcement point of view. Watch this video. When we come back, we're going to break this all down because there is a lot of people that are very, very unhappy with this officer's response.
Hello?
Hi, you went in that front door there?
This one right here?
Yeah, with a chainsaw.
Okay.
Running chainsaw. He tried to cut that tree.
He
down.
went into that door right there?
Yeah, that front entrance door.
This one with the pillars?
Yes.
The white pillars?
Yes.
Okay. Can you do me a favor and just hang out here for a second? Okay.
1358.
Hello?
Tell me to send a log out to someone else.
Just hold it for now.
Check on.
How long ago did he go in there? Okay. Okay. Hey, what's going on with this guy?
I don't know. He came in here.
Hey, can you hold this door open?
Yes,
More police
please.
are coming.
1393.
Go ahead.
There's no answer at the call to business.
Hold that door open. Hold that door open. 10-4.
Keep right there, fire.
Units didn't come in. Can you step it up? Hey!
Inconvenience.
Hey! Hey, drop the taser. Drop the taser. Or drop it. Drop it. Drop it. On the ground. On the ground.
This should be when you're there and someone be over St. Charles.
Get back. Hey, drop. Hey. Hey. Step it up. Hey, drop the chainsaw. One at taser point.
Oh my god.
Hey, drop it.
Ah, shit.
I got one at taser point. Step it up. We'll be in the front lobby. Drop it.
Subject in the front lobby.
You want me to leave? Yes.
Step it up.
I'm leaving here without my lady. Where is she?
Step it up.
Where's my...
Drop it.
I just want my wife, man. I just want to listen, man. I don't want to
Taser one. Taser. Hey.
Where is she?
Hey, right here. He's right here.
Come on. Get him out. Come here. He's on the other side. Oh, shit.
Shots fired! Hey, get out of here. Come on, buddy. Come here.
Gotcha.
Roll medics.
Okay, when I watch the video, I myself get frustrated. There's a lot of things that went wrong in this video, and albeit they took care of the threat at the end, everything leading up to it, and then post shooting, I didn't like. And so let's just start with the response.
All right, so I don't like this video either, and I had a hard time watching it, and it starts right away with the response. So this officer is getting dispatched to a senior care facility, which is in itself, you should be thinking there's a lot of people inside that probably physically don't have the capability of protecting themselves or escaping. And the call includes a man that has a running chainsaw, has cut some trees, and has gone inside the facility with the chainsaw running. Then you see the body cam of the officer arrive and talk to, which I would presume is the complaint or the person that called 911. And that person also confirms, and you can hear him say, and he went in and the chainsaw is running. That to me is a immediate response.
Yeah, so when the officer pulls up, he asks this guy, where this person went. The guy points to him where he went into the facility. And you're right, it's a senior care facility. You immediately are thinking how many helpless victims are going to be in there. And let's just think about this for a second. Is it normal for a guy to be walking around with a chainsaw cutting random trees down and then go into any type of structure or building with a running chainsaw? No.
Let alone Sunday morning at 8:50.
That in and of itself is ridiculous. It's an automatic red flag, and you should be thinking probably the worst. Like, this might result in some type of shooting based on the scenario that's being presented to me right now. He's so lackadaisical. You can hear it in the tone of his voice. He's not taking any of it serious. Maybe he's like annoyed that he's even has to be there. I don't know. But I don't like the tone of his voice. I don't like the lack of urgency that he has. And then when the guy points to where the guy walked into the building, he says he just walked in through the unlocked door. Well, the officer decides to park his car and walk to like the back of the building, which the door is locked and he can't even get in, and he's having to like pound on the window. I don't know. I mean, from my point of view and watching the camera and putting myself there, I would have drove to the front of the building, probably where this guy walked in and went into the front, and then from there start asking people or trying to figure out where this guy's at.
Yeah, the response is lackadaisical, and we talked about this. This is almost, and you should have the mindset of an active shooter response.
Yes, totally.
This is a running chainsaw. It's not like, hey, he just walked in. He's specifically saying it's running. He should mash his car up to the front, and there needs to be communication. He doesn't broadcast or radio to the responding officers what information he has. He should be confirming, I'm going into the front doors. The suspect was last seen entering through the front, open doors, with a running chainsaw. What you're doing is you're prepping the additional officers that are responding and giving them time to create and visualize what's happening and get in the proper mindset.
Yeah, I like that. I do agree with you. I would treat this like it's an active shooter type of response. So once he's in there, I will give the officer credit when he does get someone to open the door for him. He actually tells the lady to prop the door open or hold the door open for incoming officers.
That was good.
I did like that. What I didn't like, and this drives me nuts, I hate this term, don't say step it up. If you need code 3 cover or whatever it is state that you live in that requires lights and sirens and an emergency response from your partners, say that over the radio. Say I need code 3 cover. Because if you say step it up, I might interpret differently. And let's say I do respond code 3 and I get into a crash or something. Well, if someone says, well, and you go, well, I didn't mean code 3. I just wanted you to like drive a little bit faster to get there. And I interpret it as you did need code 3. Now I'm in a crash. Maybe somebody got hurt. I have to now explain that, and you just kind of left me out hanging. So for everybody listening out there, every cop, don't say that term. Like, if you need emergency response, say it. It's clear. It's crystal clear what you need, what you're asking for. There's no question about it. Just say it. The whole step it up or whatever terminology people use to beat around the bush of give me code 3 cover, I hate that. And I always tell cops, don't say that.
I'm gonna add a little bit to that from a perspective of citizens on the roadway. When you see an officer, you are expecting and holding them to a higher standard. They should be driving the speed limit. Every time I see an officer, and I notice citizens agree that when you see officers driving much faster than the general public and above the speed limit, not driving code 3, it makes people upset.
Yeah.
And this is another example of that, is you're saying step it up, which, like you said, you're forcing those officers to interpret.
You're having to make that decision. Oh, you're saying step it up. I'm automatically going to assume you just want emergency response. So I'm going to throw my license sirens on to get to you as quick as I can.
See,
but why not just say that?
I'm not expecting that. What I'm expecting is step it up. Like, okay, well, I was driving to this call. It's Sunday morning. I was going to stop and get a coffee. Maybe I don't stop and get a coffee, and then I just come to assist you.
It's confusing.
Each one of us don't even understand what that
So
means.
don't say it.
Yeah.
I just, if you need it, you need it. If you don't, then don't say that.
All right. So the officer's inside. He gets information from a citizen, from someone that's in the senior care facility, says he went that way. So again, thinking back to an active shooter, you should be listening for sounds. Do I hear the sounds of a chainsaw? He's not in with a gun that we know of, so you're not hearing gunshots. What you're listening for is a chainsaw.
Or people screaming,
yes,
running. I mean,
yes.
Well,
there are people that were moving quickly.
There
in
was,
the
yeah.
video.
But again, they are in a senior care facility, but you still might hear people screaming or yelling.
Yeah. You should be updating on the radio where you're going and what you're doing and the information. Hey, he's going this way. Like, you should know your direction of travel. I'm on the east side of the building. He's moving to the west. That's the communication part. And then when you move in, you've got to be in the mindset that something is going on.
Yeah, you as a solo cop there in dealing with that type of call, you have to be telling yourself like some type of not good encounter is about to happen, and you're already mentally in that headspace versus now that he finds a guy and he's got no shirt on, he's got a jacket over top, he's clearly under the influence, saying things that are making no sense, talking about like wanting to find his wife when clearly his wife is not of age to be there. The guy's under the influence, and he's got a chainsaw in his fucking hand. Like, dude, decisions need to be made really quickly. There are elderly people in his immediate facility,
Yes.
and he's trying to tell them to get away, and they can't do that. They're not mobile like that. One person was in a wheelchair.
Well, not only that, you're in a senior care facility, which means people could have dementia. They could be hard of hearing.
Yeah, they're not understanding.
There's so many challenges with that. But he's just, the odd thing about the suspect too, is he's standing there with a chainsaw. He's just standing there frozen, which is giving that time for that officer to like process what's happening and actually communicate what he has.
I think two options are going to be made at that point. One, if the chainsaw wasn't running at that time, it was kind of held at a down. If you felt like you had enough time, or if you had the I guess lack of distance, if you were close enough, like you either make the call and just charge the guy and just full on linebacker tackle that dude. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, then you're going to have to immediately take action. And sitting there pointing your taser at the guy, the officer was extremely stressed out. And this is why we talk about you have to be mentally prepared for this stuff, because when you get all those dumps of adrenaline and cortisol and all this stress, like you were asking like, oh, he was making weird movements with the taser, and he was telling the guy to drop his taser. Like, he's saying and doing those things because he's so stressed out, his brain isn't even working properly at that point.
Complete fear. And he's pointing his taser and he's shaking. I don't even know what he's doing with it. It's
He's
like
just stressed.
whipping it down. And he keeps saying, drop the taser, drop. And he's like not processing what's happening. And then he says, drop it, drop it, drop it. And he just keeps repeating. And like, that's a form of like, he's in his own OODA loop. And that comes with like de-escalation skill sets, because de-escalation is a skill. And many times when people train on de-escalation, they just think, oh, I'm going to use different commands, but it's actually a skill set.
Yeah, but de-escalation isn't always just verbal communication. De-escalation isn't like an action word. Like, de-escalation in that scenario could be run around the corner, see guy with running chainsaw, looks like he's about to use it against somebody, shoot that guy. That is a form of de-escalation.
Well, not enough people talk about that. The general thought is de-escalation is words.
It's just all verbal.
Yeah.
And it's not. That is not what de-escalation is. So,
well, look at the fear this officer has in it. The suspect is trying to start this thing. At that point, to me, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah, he should have taken action immediately. He should have done something immediately.
100%. Charge him and tase him, or consider lethal force at this point. But what he does is when he starts the chainsaw, he's so in fear and his mind is so gone that he actually pulls his handgun, and you can see it in the video. He has both out. And we talked about this. When have you ever held a taser and a handgun in each hand
Or
at
at
the
least
same
be trained.
time?
Yeah, at least be trained to do that.
Ever.
Like never.
Ever.
No, you're not trained to do that.
Never done that.
No.
And if your department is doing that, that's not right. It should not be happening.
Yeah. So when he does fire that thing up, now things really escalated. I'm throwing that taser on the ground, and yeah, lethal force is going to have to be used on this guy.
Yes.
Period. So he waits, and he doesn't end up shooting him. Luckily, his partners show up.
Well, he tased him first.
He did tase him. The guy falls down. How he didn't cut himself on the running chain, like he got lucky.
Yes.
But he pops back up with the chainsaw, and that's when the partner comes around. Looks like the older cop.
Yeah.
And he ends up shooting him.
Well, he fires 2 rounds, misses. They end up chasing him. He fires the 3rd round, hits him in the left forearm.
Yeah, and
But that's after he got hit with the saw.
Yeah, yeah, the guy actually checks the officer with the chainsaw in his hand. Yeah, this whole thing.
If that thing was running, if that chainsaw was running, you're dead. Like
if it would have hit him for sure.
Yes, and that goes back to the mindset and what your responsibility is. It's frustrating, and I understand why the public's frustrated on this.
Yeah, I think what it boils down to is we talk about it all the time. It's almost like beating a dead horse at this point, but it all comes down to like, are you mentally prepared to show up to a situation and use lethal force? Like, I've gone to calls where I'm like, I already know this is going to be a lethal force based on the call. And sometimes, and it has turned into that. I don't think this guy took the call serious, like right from the get-go. And then as soon as he confronted the guy, he was taken completely off guard. And then from there, he crumbled, and he couldn't reel himself back to, I guess, reality to take proper action. This is why you have to do stress-induced training. Cops need to take that more serious. You know, you can go to the range all day long, and you can have the coolest equipment, the most awesomest gear, the best optic on your handgun. You can have all those things, and that's fine if you want to do that. But if you're not upstairs, like ready to even use that equipment when you need to, then to me, it's like, well, what good is it? So going to the range 100 times a year and being the best shot ever, and, you know, put a grouping on a target, that's awesome. But if you don't even have the wherewithal to even make critical decisions and even use your firearm when you need to, I really don't care about any of that other stuff. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Most police shootings are within like 15 feet, so you should be competent enough
You're
to
pointing
hit.
and shooting.
Yeah.
Period. You're not using your sights. I mean,
well, not in this situation. In that officer that arrives, the one that ends up getting in the shooting, based on the or I'm going to say lack of information that he had received, all he got was step it up. He's immediately thrust into the situation, and I'm confident he probably had no idea that the suspect still had a chainsaw. Like, I don't think he knew any of that. And he rounds the corner, and then it immediately is presented with that.
yeah.
And that's a difficult situation, because officers' responsibilities is communicating and setting your partners up for success when they arrive. And unfortunately, that didn't happen at this point. And that officer's lucky that chainsaw wasn't running.
So I want to say the cop that did actually fire his weapon, he did a good job managing that. He made that decision. He got himself to get to that point to make that decision, which needed to be done.
Yeah.
What I didn't like was when it was all said and done, he got so spun up over the fact that he shot that guy. He like completely lost all his emotional control. And then now he's having his partners deal with him rather than what needs to be dealt with, which you have a suspect, you've got all these people that could have been potential victims in there. You don't even know if someone else has been hurt, shot. Like you don't know. And so you don't just, when you're in a shooting, you don't just get to throw up your hand and say, all right, I'm done. Like, no, you don't get to crumble. I hate that. I don't like it when I see cops doing that. That is not a time to just break down because you can't handle what just happened.
And again, the initial responding officer, the lackadaisical mindset, inability to communicate, at the very end, you're watching them handcuff the suspect, and you have 6 hands trying to handcuff this guy. 6. No one trains 6 hands to handcuff somebody. But the officer does say, the initial responding officer tells the other officer, hey, get him out of here. And that's like not what you should be doing.
Yeah, I don't think we should, no, go ahead.
You have to continue doing something. And like, we don't know if there's additional victims. You have a suspect that needs medical attention. You can't neglect that. then you have some form of coordination. And then when you said step it up, the response of this officer, again, what he says on the radio is roll medics. What is roll medics? Like the fire department or the paramedics that are responding need information. Like there's clear frustration with this video. There's a lot to learn from this.
Yeah, I don't think we would. I don't condone being in a shooting and then just completely shutting down because you're so dramatically affected by what just happened. Like you're in a job where you wear a gun every day to work and a bulletproof vest. Like if you don't think that that's a potential or possibility that could happen to you in your career, you're in the wrong career.
Yeah.
So when you do get into a shooting, you don't get to just start crying, crumble. And look, I'm not being, not sympathetic to people who it affects them all differently emotionally. Like process that after the fact. But in the moment, like you're expected to be a professional and not crumble. So that's what's expected of you, not only from the public, but your partners also, because now I have to deal with you because you can't manage yourself over what just happened when there's other things to be dealt with. And so I almost look at it like a selfish standpoint of like, dude, get it together. Let's handle what we needed to deal with. And then after the fact, we'll deal with that part of it. Okay. That's the time to I guess process what happened, not immediately following the incident.
And as soon as you get additional officers on scene, I think it's absolutely appropriate to pull that officer aside, assign someone to him.
Absolutely.
When you can. And the training aspect of this, and part of this podcast is being open-minded in helping law enforcement train and have different ideas and mindset of how to actually do the job better. And it's based off of our experiences. And it's letting the public know like what happens. And in this situation, everyone's frustrated with it.
Except for the chief who actually gave a statement and condoned the officer's response, which I don't agree with at all.
And this is the St. Charles acting chief of police, Eric Majewski. He praised the officers by saying, quote, "They were confronted with a fast-paced situation in which they attempted all means of de-escalation to protect the elderly residents and themselves had they been placed in imminent harm's way," he said.
So he's in a tough position because he supports his cops. I appreciate that. He's not going to come out and say, these guys did a terrible job responding to this call and we're going to deal with it appropriately. He's not going to come out and say that. I appreciate that he's publicly condoning the officers and saying that they did a good job because reality is they did manage and deal with the problem. But I hope behind closed doors, they evaluate this and watch the body cam footage and go, we have a serious deficiency in our training and the way that these officers responded to this call, and they need to deal with that accordingly. And I would say, some people might go, well, how do you, mitigate something like this? Or how would you train to manage something like this? What I see a lot is when cops do any type of like stress-induced training, they stop the scenario short of like, okay, like bang, bang, you're dead. And then scenario's cold. No, I think you need to take it 5 steps further and go, okay, well, scenario's still not over. So now what are we doing? Make the officers start to think, oh, the scenario's not done. I need to do this, 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 and this. I need to start coordinating things, resources, whatever. That doesn't get done a lot in training. I think it's always like the scenario gets cut short. And when stuff like this happens in real life, cops don't know what to do next because they weren't trained on what to do next.
Yeah, that's a really good point on the training of when is the scenario done?
Yeah, it ain't over until you are forcing them to start making decisions.
Yeah, and if you watch, as soon as they handcuff that suspect, they tell that officer to leave. They just stand up and
because they don't know what to do.
They're just like, okay, well, now what?
They don't know what to do.
Yeah, this is a really frustrating video. There's a lot of things to talk about in this. I understand why the public's frustrated. I'm frustrated with it.
I could see people listening to this and they're like, wow, these guys are really harsh or Monday morning quarterbacking them. And that's fine. But you know what? Sometimes you have to call a spade a spade. And it is what it is. Like you and I aren't talking about something that we haven't personally been involved in numerous times. And I know how this stuff works. And again, it's just, it's not because we want to bash on anybody or make anybody look stupid. It's just, you got to watch this and then at face value, call it for what it is. It was not an appropriate response given the circumstance, and the post-shooting was not great either. And so if you're ever going to learn, this is how you learn. And it's just being blunt and honest and talking about it and moving forward. I'm not saying anything bad about those cops, probably the nicest guys in the world, but there's obviously a lack of training there, and the department needs to recognize that. And again, like I just said, you just need to train accordingly. And then anybody else watching this video needs to take a serious look at it and go, wow, I could respond to something like that. Like, how am I going to prepare myself to handle a call like that? And start running these like mental scenarios in your head about what would you do pre and post shooting.
Well, I think that goes in why this specific body cam breakdown is so valuable, because there's a lot of things that officers that are responding to similar calls should be considering. And it starts with, what is your call, and not being complacent, thinking outside the box. And then when you're getting information, piecing that together and saying, this doesn't make sense. It's 8:50 in the morning, chainsaw running, walks freely into a building, and you have a witness that says that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where your mindset needs to be. Okay, this is a big deal.
Yeah. Yep. Cops live in a box too often, and you can't. You got to think, like you just said, think outside the box and start, piecing things together when things aren't making sense. Not everything is going to be a edge weapon, gun, knife. You know, you're dealing with a dude with a chainsaw. That's just not something you would probably think to yourself, like, I'm going to be dealing with a guy in a senior care facility with a freaking running chainsaw, like I'm in the movie Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not, that's just not something you would probably think.
Well, that's thinking outside the box, and how we.
But it's reality. It's like, you're a cop. You get thrown in scenarios every day at work that are like, sometimes you scratch your head and you're like, God, did that just happen? So the reality is there, and clearly it happened. And so anyways, I'm not going to sit here and belabor the whole thing. There was a lot of good talking points. This is a good training video, and that's all I have to say about it. That's it for today's video, you guys. Thanks for watching. Tune in for the next one. We'll see you next time.
Stay safe and be smart.